Good evening, everybody here in Madison, New Jersey, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everybody out there in television land. Welcome to the second March. YouTube. Well, it's television. It's a honeymoon, right?
The chef of the future.
That's right. So how does a Java user group who just celebrated 25 years follow up? We have back-to-back meetings the next month, and we had it was a last-minute thing with Bruno and Louise last night, and it was, if you were here or attended online, thank you for coming out, and then coming out tonight to hear Viktor talk about model context protocol. So with that, we'll do our usual slides.
Just click it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I'm so used to using them.
Yeah.
This is our standard agenda, right? So, we thank our sponsors, talk a little bit about what's new. I'll introduce Viktor, and then after his presentation, I'll come back and we'll talk about some upcoming events. So, all right. So, of course, our gold sponsor is Payara, makers of the Payara platform, which includes Payara Server, Payara Micro, Payara Cloud, Payara Cube, Q-U-B-E. That's a Kubernetes related
anyone using Java EE stuff,
Yeah.
or everyone is using something lighter?
It's Jakarta E.
Jakarta, yes, sorry, yes, Jakarta EE. Anyone? Microprofile maybe? Quarkus also counts kind of sort of a
Yeah.
little bit because they use a lot of APIs
Yeah.
and they use a lot of like annotations from microprofile, right?
Yep.
Okay. What the other people are using? Are they just like a Tomcat built in Spring Boot?
Spring SC and Spring, yeah.
Yeah.
Liberty. I know that. Oh yeah, Open right?
Wow, IBM folks.
Wildfire,
Soon I will be talking to you all things about IBM because IBM acquired Confluent. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, wow, I didn't catch that one.
So yeah, there's gonna be soon many presentations about Jakarta from your server.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Cool.
I want to hit the down arrow.
Yeah, that doesn't no like down.
Yeah, I want to hit the down. Yeah.
I don't know. That's
I'll have to use the.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So a silver sponsor is Azul, and of course, Azul purchased Payara a few months ago.
Oh really? Well,
yeah.
that's something I didn't know.
Really?
That's super cool. Yeah.
So yeah, we're not quite sure how things are going to evolve, but it's just like the Exxon and Mobil merger, right? And Exxon had the lead on fuels, Mobil had the lead on lube, so getting together made sense. Similar here, Azul is the Java SE. They have a downstream distribution called Azul Zulu. And then Payara, of course, is a Jakarta EE compliant application service. So,
a well-known fact,
yeah.
some of the early images that we published at Confluent, like Confluent, Kafka, and Scheme Registry, were using Zulu as a base Java until I think the Red Hat, we start using the UBI images, but for a very long time Kafka was running, like some of the open source images were running on top of Zulu.
Yeah,
it's a great thing.
And of course, they were the first to implement crack in the.
Still horrible name. I'm
know.
not buying this.
Everybody, it's a good way to make jokes, right? So it's a coordinated restore checkpoint, so PCRAC. So that's Azul, and our partner is DevNexus, and if you were here last night, you heard me talk about that, so please, indulge me on this. We had a great conference last week. Viktor was there, and I forgot how tall he is, by the way. I saw him, like, geez.
Barney, have we fit in the YouTube channel so that people will see us, or it's just kind of like Mike and like I'm standing like.
And then Barry was there, I was there, anybody else? I think Alexander Gondarov was there.
Yeah, Alex was there, but he said he couldn't come today.
Yeah, so, and then Chandra, who was one of the other directors, he was there too. Vlad, you weren't there, were you? You're going to Arc of AI, right?
Yeah, well, it's
yes.
good one. Yeah.
So, all right, so, yeah. And like I said, it was a great conference, and there were so many things going on. There was a big focus on AI in this particular series. So our per meeting sponsors is JetBrains. Of course, when I raffle off the license to IntelliJ IDEA, that's from JetBrains. They make other products like WebStorm, PyCharm, Refactor, or something like this, right? So JetBrains, of course, is behind Kotlin programming language, another JVM language. Jakarta EE and the Eclipse Foundation, they offer video conferencing known as Crowdcast to all Java groups. We've used this in the past, but we decided to go with Zoom live streaming to YouTube. And then, of course, pizza is from Romanelli's. They provide a nice discount for us, and we appreciate that. And they're right in town, so if you're ever in Madison, right across the train station, give them a shot there. So, our memberships are the Jakarta EE Ambassadors, formerly known as the Java EE Guardians. There's a long story behind that, so I'll spare you that. But you know, we obviously, as the name implies, we do advocate for Jakarta EE. We are guest members of the Microprofile and Jakarta EE working groups, and we have a relationship with the Virtual Jug. So you know, look for some of the stuff there. Arc of AI, as I just mentioned, Vlad here will be going next month. He was one of the winners in the raffle that Venkat does January, February, and I guess on the 15th of this month. That's why I have the question mark down there at the bottom. So yeah, so that is coming up. A lot of great speakers to that. Are you going to that?
Yeah, I'm speaking to it.
Cool. And then, let's see. Oh, JDK 26 next Tuesday, right? Look for that. The GA release. It's during Java 1 next week.
Are we doing like an install party? Remember, like install parties?
Oh yes.
There's some new distribution came in. Someone got the disk on the mail, and after that, everyone coming in, and everyone installing new version of Ubuntu. Like we should do install party for Java 26.
Yeah, when Java first came out, I was still pursuing my degree at Rutgers, and everybody was downloading the JDK to their account on the server. So they finally said, "Look, we have a central place. Stop using up our hard disk space." So.
Yep.
So these are the first 5 of 10 new features, or known as JEPs, JDK enhancement proposals. You can see the applet API is finally going to go away. It's been deprecated since JDK 9. The ahead of time caching, that's Project Layton. HTTP 3, we support for that. And then I have to read the details about the final keyword. You know, prepare to make it final actually mean final. I think there was ways around circumvent, you know, of that. So yes, there's always a ways around everything. Just you know. So and then these are the second 5. A lot of these. By the way, Barry gave an awesome talk on post-quantum at DevNexus last week. You know, and being a math geek like I am, I was really into it, and it's interesting what you can do with that. Structured concurrency is for Project Loom. This goes in hands with virtual threads, but still in its preview stages. Hopefully by JDK 27 to 28, they'll have enough feedback that they'll finalize that, that particular feature. Lazy constants used to be, not scope values, the other one. Keep forgetting the name. It was not scope values. I'll think of it at some point. Vector API, you see that it's in its 11th incubator. And you're going to say, Mike, when are they going to get their act together? There's a very good reason for that. Vector API is part of Project Panama. And they're waiting for some features in Project Valhalla to be finalized before they can actually make this more of a you know, finalized feature. So, and then primitive types is in Project Amber. So. And then the release schedule, we see March 17th, right, for general availability. You know, I think at some point we'll get the final release schedule for JDK 27, which will be in September. And then right at this moment, I checked a couple of times, but JEP 527 post-quantum is already targeted for JDK 27. So it's only one so far. I anticipate, I keep thinking it's going to happen soon. There will be a lot of these, you know, specs actually getting themselves ready for the next release in September. And Jakarta EE12 work has been going on for well over a year now, and Jakarta Query is the new spec that is now part of the platform. And Jakarta Agentic AI, if you were here in January, you heard Reza Rahman, not January, February, talk about that. So there's a lot of work to be done there, so probably will not be under the EE12 platform. And with that, no further ado.
I know this guy.
So you like that picture, right?
My wife did this, took this picture, so why I would not love this? Yeah.
So first, I think you first visited with us, I want to say 2017, when we were still in the Scotch Plains Rescue Squad. So that's
it's long overdue.
Well,
all things considered, yeah, it's long overdue visit.
So Victor's going to do a full intro for himself and talk about MCPs as the missing protocol, and we look forward to that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here. That's it? Or we have,
got a mic. Okay.
And after that, you want to do this after?
Later on, yeah.
All right, later on. Sounds great. Ooh. This can do this stuff. I start experimenting a little bit with the different tools. Now, my presentations also run in terminal. How can you tell this is terminal? I will tell you.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with about who at least heard about MCP. Okay, almost everyone except few people. Okay, so if you didn't hear about MCP, like why? Because it was literally runs from every possible, yeah. Anyone using MCP today in production or production-ish capacity, using as a consumer of MCP or developer of MCP? What does it mean?
Experimenting with it locally, not really even close to having anything in development for it that much.
Okay, all right, like you.
Yeah.
Production?
Yeah, you have some project. It's not in production, it's like molecular production. Maybe not finished in production, but we designed, use PinkEye. And
What it does? What's your server does?
it's like wrapper,
Uh-huh.
MCP, it's like AI wrapper under our service. Instead of clicking on UI, user will be able to just write, create me proposal for this guy, take their accounts, this account, and use this risk, and so on and so forth. And agent will.
I like that, and this is how
I also like to frame some of the points of this presentation and some of the points of this demo. We're going to be using kind of like a human free-form language to build some complex things. Vladimir talking about some business process that they have in the organization. I'll show you how to build like full-blown data pipeline with alerts and some real-time monitoring of the brewing system. Obviously made up and maybe not real, but it still will be there. Now, anyone doing anything with streaming? Kafka, okay, or what do you do with streaming?
you just like you were so confidently.
Raise your hand immediately. So what do you do?
A whole lot of data ingest and metric aggregation. I actually saw your Flink EVs earlier, so clearly you do some stuff with Flink, and I was going to say that I've been meaning to.
Someone came prepared.
Yeah, I mean to say that I've been meaning to eventually start using Flink, because right now when it comes to my consumption and then my aggregation and everything else, I just do it with SE21, like vanilla.
You should have used Kafka streams in this case, because
the Java util streams is not something that you want to use for distributed stream processing, but Kafka streams is. Anyone else? Anyone using something else like a Pulsar, maybe Kinesis? No? Thank God. Okay, because otherwise I would need to explain why a Pulsar is not good compared to Kafka. Anyway, anyone doing anything with AI? Yeah, this is you. What are you doing with AI?
Well, after those metrics come in and then we scan them for a bunch of anomalies, we end up needing language models to sift through the events that we produce and essentially sort them semantically, like, hey, this isn't actually noise, this is something you should pay attention to, and if it does detect that, then afterwards we need to send out.
So LLM is a little bit smarter than your anomaly detection logic?
Well, it's smarter because it has semantics in a way that I just wouldn't be able to do. There's too much data. I'm really interested to see how I could possibly deploy an agent for just very high volume data. But realistically, it's first very high volume data.
That's a good question. Yes, this is a good question. How you will be dealing with the high And this is where actually Flink can help. I'll talk about this in a second, because, not in a second, maybe it's going to be the second part of this presentation, because Flink actually building its own agentic framework that's essentially running agentic code, like LLM code, on top of high volume streams. But I'll talk about this at the end.
So, all right, so we have some understanding, right? Okay, so we we're in the world of hype, and everyone is hyping out about this, and everyone's talking about MCP now, and nobody's talking about MCP. Everyone is talking about skills, but I think it's still MCP still it's actually become very stable for the world, so the people start to simply use it, don't think about this or like overhype this. Yeah. So like let's take a look on some data. So around same time last year, I don't know if you see this properly. Let me see. Too fast. This is issue that I found with stupid Ghosty, because some reasons swipe is just extremely annoying. Just give me a second, I'll get back here. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So essentially around the same date, somewhere in the March last year, Anthropic dropped the bomb when everyone was discussing RAGs, or retrieval augmented generation patterns. Anthropic dropped this, the specification for protocol for the system that allows to LLM as invoking external tools. I'm saying invoking, it's not entirely technically true, but you know, let's talk like invoking the external tools. And now, like everyone is talking about, there's maybe some dip, and there's keep rising. I should have checked the most recent data, but essentially people are talking about MCP, and we're going to also touch the context of RAG and how those things are connected. So so let me do this a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. So my name is Viktor Gamov. I work as a principal developer at a company called Confluent. Anyone heard about Confluent before? All right, few people. Confluent was founded by original creators of Apache Kafka. So there's going to be a lot of conversation about Kafka today. I wrote the book about Kafka. I was doing some data streaming even before I joined Confluent. I was at the Hazelcast. This is where I first time presented the distributed collections that Hazelcast was using. But also in Hazelcast, we started building a stream processing agent that was running on top of the memory data. And after that, I moved to Confluent, built a lot of stuff there, wrote the book about Kafka. So I'm also a Java champion that, you know, it's a Java champion, right? So we need to fight each other, and the strongest wins. And that's why they call them Java champion.
There's been a lot of that, but we'll leave it at that.
Yes, and this is probably will be the most important slide of today's presentation. This is the link to website where the video, slides, the different links, previous talks, everything will be there. Everything. I came here for Java user group. Come on in. Java user group? Here we go. Nice. All right. Some other talks, and you know, some of the resources will be there. So give a second. Everyone took a picture. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about problem. So problem with this system. If you have a chance to experiment a little bit with LLMs, you usually came around two things. You either using tools like Claude Desktop, Claude Code, ChatGPT, something that has like a chat-like interface. Or if you're more advanced and you know how what you want to do with this, you just interacting with LLM using the API. For perspective of a developer, it's a web service deployed somewhere and provides you with some endpoint that you submit your requests and you get the response. And the way how this API approach will work, it's stateless. It doesn't have memory, it doesn't remember your interaction. So essentially you just send the response, send the request, get the response. If you're trying to follow up with this request, it doesn't have memory, so it doesn't remember anything. In a contrast tool like ChatGPT or Claude Desktop, this is actually code that's the client that will be using this API, but also will do some of the, this fancy user experience, like remembering what you were asking a couple months ago, and after that, use this as a part of context of conversation. If you would just go ahead and announce after saying, hey, remember we were talking about blah, and after that, this information magically come back. So it's not like that. It's something that your application will give you. And I'll show you that I built something similar using some open source technology that allows also remember context. Now, so essentially when you asking question, it's going to be very expensive, like autocomplete, but there's no context, there's no memory, there's no tools. There's no way how this LLM would know about your real-time data, what is happening right now, like what is happening yesterday or a second ago. So there's no such thing in just LLM out of the box. So we want LLM to do some of the things. Apart from doing some simple stuff like searching the web, also maybe searching its own information that it was pre-trained. Query database, I really like this system, maybe go and fetch the data from somewhere else. And obviously for me, with the major PTSD of data streaming, I also do this stuff, read my Kafka data and make some decisions or make some reactions or maybe just send notifications and things like that. And the most important thing is just I want to get this right now. If you don't know, you probably know this, but models, all these LLM systems, they have this concept of cutoff date, meaning that there was a point of time in past that was when the data was gathered in the internet. They decided, okay, stop. Let's shove it into our like a magical machine, and after that we train our model. So this is why this large language model, they have this what's called cutoff date, and they are pre-trained on some of the data. If you want to get the data from yesterday, most likely they don't know without bringing some sort of different tools. Now, so the way how things would evolve, let me do this a little bit bigger so you can see. With a little bit of software engineering, we can add a little bit of memory to our conversation, meaning that we will have some sort of user session. And how we can do this, we've already done this multiple times with the stateless protocols like HTTP. With HTTP, we have a cookies or local storage. We're doing something exactly the same here with the memory. So there would be your application that know how to talk to LLM, cache some responses, and maintain a history of requests. And after that, it will keep growing a context. This is kind of like something where you and your LLM converse. And this context usually just growing because there would be new facts appear through LLM call or through conversation that you as a user will be asking. Another step when people start adding into this data pipeline is including existing data. So that's why the pattern of the RAG came up into play. So what the idea was simple. You need to prepare your data, store it in some sort of storage that supports semantic search. And it turns out vector databases would be this thing. So you take the data that you have in your enterprise system, you apply the algorithm that kind of sort of like tokenize it and turn this semantically text into some numbers. It's a process called embedding. And after that, when we need to find information, there would be parallel query to vector store to find relevant information to request. And after that, include this as part of a context of interacting with LLM. So we have some side database that will require its own pipeline to read the data, turn them embeddings, store in vector search, maintain this vector database, and include this, the RAG information as a part of context. With the next step, sometimes we also interested not only in a context, meaning that we don't want to have more data. Sometimes what we want is to create some sort of side effect in the real world. For example, we want our LLM or want our agent application sent emails. So in this case, LLM needs to know about what the possibilities there for it to use or send emails. LLM will express intent to use this tool, and our agentic application will invoke this tool and tell the LLM what it did. But why we need to add the protocol here? Everything looks cool and fine. We're already all these things people are doing, and it kind of works. Why are you the way you are? Come on. So the simple option would be for every possible LLM and every possible tool, we just need to create its own implementation. That sounds about cool thing to do. Actually, no, because some of the APIs might have similarities. Some of the APIs might be different similarities. It looks like some of the systems that implement OpenAI style of API. So that's why, if you're using the local models through Olama, it's basically any application that knows how to talk to OpenAI API will be able to talk to your local models. But what about the rest of the stuff? What about the every database you have in your organization? How you would connect this or get the data from this database? Like your Kafka cluster, your Flink jobs, monitoring, all these APIs. So essentially, this end-to-end integrations, it does make sense. So that's why we need to have some sort of a standard protocol. So that's why MCP start gaining popularity, because this is exactly what it is. There's supposed to be joke about the USB, because kind of with the world of when you try to connect other things, you have USB-A. USB-A, great technology, it was great, right? So you get this in, it doesn't fit, you turn around, it doesn't fit, you turn it back and it fits. It's a great technology. But thankfully, we don't have to do this anymore. We have USB-C. So whenever you will be moving things, the slides will clearly was developed to present in the European Union, so they will enjoy themselves a little bit. But yeah, because as soon as the European Union push Apple to do a USB-C, we don't see the Lightning cables and USB-A in USB Mini anymore. Why it is important? People like to use USB-C metaphor for MCP. Not a huge fan, but I thought that would be cool for you to know this as well. So let's talk about what's the building blocks of the MCP. I'll show you a few examples, and after that I'll show you some demo where we can play around in action, what is happening. Now, it is an open specification. If you do modelcontextprotocol.org, you can find documentation, you can find a bunch of examples, you can find a bunch of SDKs that allows you to implement MCP specification. So in the heart of this, speaking about speaking about all technologies, I don't know if you're following any kind of gaming stuff. But last week, Ubisoft released a patch for Assassin's Creed Unity, the one that you play in French Revolution, that allows to do 4K 60 FPS. And it's a game from 2014. And turns out people love that, and now they see spike of sales of this game. Well, I mean, apparently there could be some technologies from the past. I only happy that it was not like EGB or DCOM, something like that. They picked up JSON RPC. Anyone old enough to actually implement something with JSON RPC? It's a predates REST. If you ever use the WordPress and you're using any tools to publish remotely to WordPress, they're using XML RPC. It's a similar, but it uses JSON payload. So essentially, it's a protocol that allows to perform any type of like remote procedure calls, but it uses like JSON style. Horrible. Like in 2026, we already have a much better protocols, like much more performant protocols. But it is what it is. So everything started with JSON RPC, but again, things are moving so fast. Maybe very soon, this will go away, and I will not have a, anything to laugh about. Client-server architecture. Your application, your agent, will be implementing client that knows how to go and call this server. It has architecture for discovery, so you don't need to go and read documentation, which would be stupid. There is a discovery that allows to LLM, because it's intended to machine to go and read this. So it allows to LLM get information about what's inside, what kind of tools, what kind of resources. We're going to talk about this in a second. And it is language agnostic, so you can implement everything in your favorite language. I would implement everything in Java, obviously. Not obvious for everyone, but I know that there's opinions about that. Oh, since we're doing everything with AI or data engineering, we need to use Python. Like, who said that? You don't have to use Python at all, only if you like. But I'm not asking you about your choices. So fast MCP, that's the SDK that people will start building their MCP servers. There is a Node.js tooling. If you're doing anything or you're planning to do something in production, I highly recommend you to look at the Quarkus and or Spring AI. Quarkus plus LangChain4j or Spring Boot plus Spring AI. So those are two major technologies right now in the Java world that are ready for production, but also they're keeping with the pace of innovation. So they're implementing the recent specifications of the server-side protocol, so it will be agnostic for the new clients to use. I will be using here for my MCP client, I will be using LangChain4j. And my server is written in Node.js, but I already start rebuilding this for open source Kafka that will be using Quarkus and Java. And arguably, that's supposed to be one protocol. And right now, it's supported for majority LLM. So for quite some time, it required certain a certain model needs to be trained to understand how to call tools, how to use MCP. Right now, everyone seems to be cool with that. When I mentioned the client-server architecture, that's how it looks like. So inside your application, it's going to be like my custom agent, Claude Code, it can be Claude Desktop, ChatGPT, Copilot, Kiro, Windsurf, whatever you have. All those things support, and they have a client. So what they're going to do, first one, they will get the list of available things there. So, and the things will be there, tools, resources, and prompts. So when in the very beginning, when I was showing the diagram that I really want the LLM to have some sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like side effect in the outside world, that's what I want to call tools. This tools not necessarily needs to extend my context, like in getting some external information. I would say it would rather become a some sort of like a side effect, because not only you can call external tool, but also you can get some of the results that you can use, but extending context. Actually, the prompts and resources that were supposed to be used this way, but no one seems to kind of like putting much of the thoughts into this. So everybody is using tools. And tools would look something like this. It's essentially a method description that will have some sort of parameters, and based on the based on a response from the server when you need to do a discover, you'll get the documentation. So LLM or agent application that will be using LLM will have a full context what those methods will do, what kind of parameters needs to be there, and so far and so on. Some of the resources LLM can read if we're gonna define them into resources. And you also can define some sort of pre-existing behavior. So you can predefine some prompts that intended to be used together with these tools. Does it make sense so far? Happy to stop and interrupt me if something does make any sense. I'm happy to clarify. It's no issues at all. Right? Cool. So let's talk about MCP means data streaming. Again, like I said, I'm spending so much time there, so I probably try to solve every problem with data streaming, and now I try to make sense where the MCP comes in this place into real-time data. So it's a kind of loaded statement, but I think it's true. Agents are actually blind without real-time data, because it will require a lot of moving things around to get this data. Agents can query databases, they can read the docs, but like how you can make this agent to react on the real-time data. And the Kafka was supposed to be kind of this like a real-time system. So that's why real-time data here is important in agentic world. And so far, without this, the agents will not be able to see what's inside, but meet a server that allows you to subscribe to topics, query statements, and or maybe write the Flink statements, understand the schema of the data. For simplicity, let me explain what the schema is. Inside the Kafka really doesn't care what you store there. Kafka stores bytes. And Kafka is designed to be like a super fast because it actually bypasses serialization, Java serialization. We know it's like the best thing that we have in Java, not. So what it does, it takes the bytes from the socket and streams this directly to file. But our applications, they require to know what kind of data, what's the payload there and stuff. So we have this concept of schema registry. There's this separate service that will be storing metadata information about your data. So when the consumer application needs to read the data, it takes the schema, takes the bytes, and voila, we know and now understand what kind of data we stored inside the Kafka. Have the same abilities for agents would be also cool, because agent can go and understanding data structure, since it's already standardized and somewhere published somewhere in a centralized place. It would be cool to have it. And dealing with some day two responsibilities, monitoring consumer lag, like how good our consumers are consuming Kafka topics, and maybe creating some sort of alert, so your SRE on-call people would go and check. Maybe there's a network glitch and the consumers are slowing down. Maybe there's some garbage collection happening on the consumer side of things that prevents consumer to keep up with the data, and so far and so on. And most interesting is maybe creating pipelines using natural language. So let me walk you through this a demo that I'm going to be showing today. So I call it AI application because it's going to be my public static void main Java application will be running. It will be talking to LLM. Thanks to LangChain4j, I will be also managing some of the conversations, so my local application would know the story or history of my prompt, so it will have memories. And this application will interact with this MCP server. So what it will do, it provides different tools. List of topics. Topics is where Kafka stores data. How I can, based on this information, how I can produce new message, how I can read this message. So all this information will be available in MCP server. That will be calling real platform. So my Kafka cluster will be running inside the Confluent cloud, and we will be deploying some of the demo bits there. Does it make any sense? So yes.
Just trying to understand. Yes. At DevNexus last week, I think I've learned a lot more how all these pieces fit together. There's has one and others, right? So MCP is a protocol synonymous to a spec, I guess, mm-hmm. right?
Yes.
And then somebody implements that.
Yeah.
And that's what Kafka did, right?
So here's two things.
So first of all, there are clients and servers. Clients, the applications that know how to connect MCP server and how to use this information, down the stream. In this particular case, how this information would be used by LLM. There's a server side. So the frameworks that you call, like Haldon has its own framework, how you can build MCP servers. So your backend, your APIs, your REST and not the REST, JSON RPC endpoints would be standard compliant, meaning that the standardized payload, standardized format of request and response, and all these kind of things. So in this case, I'm not building server in this particular demo, but the Confluent MCP server, it's also open source. It uses Node.js and whatever Node.js framework they have to build MCP server. What I started building this morning, I didn't have that time to finish. Okay, so what if I would just like build this from scratch from using Quarkus? So I'm building this in Java, and it will use a bunch of annotations. So I have a Java method that will be annotated with @tool. Yeah, and in this case, the runtime, in this case Quarkus, will take this annotation and create RESTful endpoints, JSON RPC endpoints. I apologize for that again. That will include standardized payload, standardized responses. For me as a developer, I only expose the tool saying, hey, take this Java method and expose it as an MCP tool. Fair? Fair.
Yeah.
When we annotate, put patch the same, so here we just annotate
Right. There's a bunch. There's MCP tool, and then in the Spring world, there's there's tool.
In Spring world, it's MCP something provider.
Okay. Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
And the new agentic AI spec, I think there's about 5 or 6 annotations, and it has to do with agents. So there's an agent annotation. There's a tool. I think
that stuff that Link4j is doing.
So, all right. Yeah, this is good.
Have a question?
Thank you.
I was just going to ask in regards to how you would, what would be annotated with prompts in this case, and just more confusing ones, at least for tools and at least for tools.
Let me quickly show. Actually, I think it's a good idea to do something
interesting stuff. Before we're jumping into Kafka, so what it is? Give me just a second. I'll just do Zoom. Come on, bro. Okay, you're embarrassing me in front of people. Zoom. 150. Come on. Yeah. So. At some point, I thought it would be funny, funny guy, to build a real enterprise server that will do, say, deploy in EGBs. Because, IBM acquired Confluent, so I think I need to start deploying EGBs again. It's still tough crowd, or still, I don't know. Like, I still couldn't find the age. Like, do we laughing at the EGB jokes, or we don't know what the hell is this? So, and in this case, I do have, at least we're laughing about COBOL jokes, right? We have a common background that COBOL is funny. Okay, so for example, in this particular case, I have a tool that would deploy COBOL runbook. And specifically, there is a annotation on top of this that transforms COBOL copybook definitions to modern JSON schema with full EBC, DIC character encoding support, handles PIC clauses, redefines. Last month, IBM was doing not last month, 2 or 3 weeks ago. They were doing earnings report. And after the earnings report, IBM dropped $50. Like, dropped $50. Everyone was like, why? Like, they were reporting there was a profit and stuff like that. Anthropic announced that they're working on the tools that allow to modernize any COBOL workloads. So, this tool was developed using with the Claude Code agent, so it knows some stuff about the about COBOL. Few things. All right, give me a second. Now, if I would do Claude Code, Claude Desktop, I kid you not, it's funny as hell. So there is a connector. The connector says, where's my connector? It's called Synergy Bridge. So this connector enabled in my Claude Code. And in this case, I can do and say, hey, can you go and deploy my EGB? So what's going to happen based on this context, or like based on this conversation, and based the environment? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's deploy some.
What are you actually working
I see. Let's see. Now, see. So now it was able to introspect the environment. In this particular case, it knows about the existence of my server. It knows that in this server, I do have a tool called deploy UGB, and for some going with ultra legacy today. So now, what is happening right now? The MCP server actually has enterprise-grade delays. If you remember, deployment can take hours. So in this particular case, it's just invoke something, and it gets me some output. So in this particular case, EGB was deployed, and it has the real enterprise name. Let's see what kind of tools are also available there. So what I can also do. And if I go, where's my? It's too small of the screen. Where's the developer? Where's the general? No, it should be somewhere in extensions. No. It should be here. It's already configured. I don't know why it's not showing this to me. Connectors. Here we go. Yep. So that's my Synergy Bridge configure. So all the tools that were automatically discovered, for example, begin transaction if I'm running COBOL job, configure route, generate report, look up customer. Also, it should have the resources. The question how we end up here. So the question was about like what to put inside resources and the prompts. If I go back to chat. All right, so what I can do with Synergy Bridge system. So in this case, it should discover and give me idea what I can do based on the availabilities. All right, so get server info. It gets me information about the server. All these tools here, I also have enterprise prompts. So for example, if this would be enterprise system that was developed in the year 2000s-ish, when the consultancy around the Java EE was the thing, there would be some perfect ready-to-use enterprise prompt that would be your enterprise consultant can generate your report based on different features available in the server. So okay, so it gives me idea. Okay, deploy GB, mainframe, blah blah blah. Let's do something like generate. Okay, so crystal reports, generate report. Okay, let's do generate some reports. So with this information, like jokes aside, technology-wise, now the MCP server has discovery, the LLM discovered, so not LLM, this particular like Claude desktop discovered this, found all these tools. All right, so Clister report facts and the page orientation confused. It's actually, I'm spending too much time with the Claude desktop, so it now start getting all my corny jokes. I need to go and refresh the memory and say, hey, just like forget about this stuff. So yeah, so like with completion of deployment of this report via Lotus Nodes, which is pretty cool. So report is also generated. It specifically takes some latency to simulate a real world scenario, but it just generates some stuff here. Estimation of completion, 4 to 6 business days. Sounds about right. That's the joke. But in every joke, there is always some piece of truth. Another enterprise resource should be able to invoke. So in this particular case, there's a Cinebridge architecture diagram that gives architecture diagram of this application, fake diagram, fake system. Does it make sense in terms of like prompts, what you store in prompts, what you store in resources, what you store in the tools? In tools, something that you're calling, usually it may be something that will create side effects and out in the real world. Resources, like a diagram. Let's see if we can invoke this. Can you display architecture diagram? Let's see. Can you display? So in this case, it should be able to recognize that this is the resource. Okay, standard enterprise architecture renders only acceptable format mermaid diagram, which is not entirely true. This is not what I was expecting. I was expecting Cloud Desktop will pick up this resource from the server, but still kind of like a little bit of not hallucination, but just a little bit of free will, if you make. Actually, I don't know if it actually renders. Let me do mermaid online, if it actually generates something. Mermaid live, yeah, this one. Let's see. Ah, see, it actually does architecture diagram of the system. Data tier, mainframe tier. This is crazy. What is this? Like too much of enterprise. Siebel, COBOL copybook, Oracle. I think it's hallucinated a little bit because I didn't teach it to do this stuff. Resources, tools, and resources, tools, and prompts. Now, let's talk about something interesting. I will skip this part of the slide. I will go with the real stuff. Now, two things, what I need to do here. So first of all, I need to have my Anthropic key configured. And also, I need to make sure that I'm running this MCP server, because MCP server, npm start SSC. So in this case, now we start dealing with the real stuff. So if I run my Kafka agent, it should discover two things. Okay, I call it Brewmaster agent because it will be dealing a little bit with the brewing some beers. And before we start, it has access to particular tools. And those tools you see here came from this server, including list of topics, delete topics, produce topics, blah, blah, blah. And some other MCP server that I was using for test, but forgot to disable, but it's fine. It's not gonna be interfering. So for now, it says 46 MCP tools available. There's a probably fair consensus that number of tools should be relatively small, because all these things will take a context. Take this conversational window that you have between your LLM, and less is best, is better. More is also better, but finding this like a perfect size of this context is very difficult, because you don't know like where this context start rotting because of the size, and the LLM will start ignoring, or will using this information to ignore and stuff like that. In this particular case, it's fine. Like I know what I'm doing, because it's my demo. I know that there would be no extra the context or no extra tools, but in reality, you probably want to limit them. I don't know, 10 to 20 tools. Yes. Yeah, some agents allow you to do that. So some agents, but also there's a little bit of kind of like a magic how you keep the context, which part of this context we need to hold. In particular case here with my tools, there would be some sort of like introspection on top of the Java object, because all this information would be inside my Java memory. So some tools allow you to see how much free context you have left. A couple weeks ago, not the months ago, when Anthropic announced their Opus 4.6 model, they now have for for people who need this and people who have money, they have a 1 million token context window, which is pretty huge. It's a lot. Now my system has access to tools, and most importantly now, let's see what it can do. Clear chat history, blah, 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 blah. So in this particular case, we're using Sonnet 4.0 even. We don't need a super smart model here, because the only thing that is required is the model that can invoke the tools. Now, let's start with setup. So in this case, it will fire. Meanwhile, it will be running. I also will be showing. Where's my Kafka agent? I also need a demo script. Where's my AI service? Agent app. Where's my AI assistant? AI assistant. So that's the part of my application that will take the information about chat, which is abstraction that Chain4j uses to interact with LLM, and it will sort inside my object where I will have like different sessions. Will have a session ID that memory would be bound to a particular session. And so what my setup did, let me quickly show you. So everything in the world of modern programming is all programming in English. And in this particular case, this is how my agent, my application will get its identity through system prompt. So system prompt is something that will be embedded with every request that will explain like what we want this system to be represented by. And LLM will behave like it is expert in two things, in two fields. One field is the brewing expert, another one expert in Kafka and Confluent. So it has brewing knowledge section that it understands how to brew IPA stout and Pilsner, different the temperature would be used. And also there is a section about streaming knowledge. So this is the information always will be attached. It's a system prompt. It's going to be would be always part of the context. So the LLM, because I guess LLM doesn't have any knowledge, this is something that we need to send all the time. Also, it knows a little bit about the schema of our data. It knows how to produce message, and also it has a little bit knowledge about Flink SQL. We're going to talk about this in a second. And in a setup, I have this scenario because I want to this be like not the declarative, like creating this pipeline based on natural language. And this is what basically my pipeline says. Build a smart brewery monitoring system. Create 3 topics: the sensors, alerts, and metrics, and tag them with the brewery pipeline tag. Based on parsing of this prompt, LLM were able to extract the intent, what this prompt trying to do. Also, it has a context of the tools. I showed you a list of the tools available. So what my agent went and do, okay, I'll help you set up brewery monitoring system. Let's create 3 topics, blah, blah, blah. Topics created, blah, blah, blah. We apply the tags. And after that, there's a list of methods that were actually invoked in order to make this happen. So it created topic tag, create topic tag, search topic by name, and all the things are there. And let me show you how this would look like. Oh, holy moly. Can I do dark theme? Where's my themes? Or it's okay. It's okay. It's not horrible. Okay, why it's the quick Visual Studio Code. You have a other instance. Let me try to see if this will connect to my Confluent Cloud. Here we go. So I will go this. I'll just log in. All right. So it's while it's logging. Anyone doing anything exciting with taxes this year? So just a reminder, it's tax season. It's almost 1 month until.
That's a sore topic in the Redley house.
If I were doing something exciting with taxes, I wouldn't be able to tell you about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly not while we're live streaming.
So
It's not a big sore one.
So what just happened? This is my cluster that my MCP server is connected to. I'm not going into details, but imagine it just like simply connects to this, and all these topics were just created. So I can see those topics are here. So in order to see if this actually understands intent, so my intent also was use schemas, so produce the data that would be in the format that we want. So we're gonna go and do this right now. So in my demo script, I do have a few things that I would like this agent to do. So that's a setup part. We already passed that. We have these tags. We have this. We need the tags just in order to erase afterwards. That would be easier to find. Now, so I give a scenario. I said, hey, there is a 3 fermentants running. Oh, let me do this one. I think that would be better so I can see what is happening. 3 fermenters running, APA for fermented 1, stout fermented 2, and pilsner and fermented 3. Produce realistic sensor data for all of them. So in this case, I'm going to see and observe what is happening inside my brewery sensors topic. So now we should start seeing some of the messages that this agent will be producing. So in this case, this fermenter 1 includes information. We said like a fermented 1, we have an IPA. Sounds about right. It says like what's the temperature, what's the pressure, temperature, and all this kind of thing. And now this is how LLM creates side effects in the real world. Real Kafka cluster running. I only expressing my intent, what I want this to do. LLM together with my agentic system prompt and together with the tooling, able to do stuff like this. All the messages just coming in. So we do have a sensor that has pH, temperature. pH is probably pressure, yeah, it's probably pressure. All right. So what it says. All right. So what I did, produced messages. And also, let's see, there's a, it was able to correct itself because it was producing some messages, getting some errors, and saying, okay, so let me fix there's the idea. So I have a typo in the last schema. So I don't know if it will affect our demo, but it's live demo. Let's see how it goes. Also, apart from getting this data, it also generated a schema for my topics. So remember, I was talking about schema registry. And now for my temperature, let me refresh this one. Brewery sensors value. For values of this sensor data, we will have the schema in Avro format. So why it is important? In the next step, I will be telling this LLM to go ahead and create this stream processing statement using the Flink SQL. And this is where it can introspect the data format, so it will generate correct Flink statements in order to perform the correct call of those tools. Now, so we know how to generate this. We know how to consume this, register the schemas. Now, create the Flink job that monitors temperature anomalies, alert if the fermentant drifts more than 2 degrees of its normal range in a 10 seconds window. So in this case, it's a lot of things to unpack. So we're gonna now generate a real-time alert using Flink SQL. Think about this: it's a stream processing system that uses SQL as a DSL to describe the jobs. So it's not database. It's not making this some sort of the streaming database or whatnot. It's just so we can skip the part where we need to compile Java jobs and run the Flink on Java. Okay, so ready to set up real-time monitoring with Flink SQL. We could detect temperature spikes. So it's already kind of it gives the idea, since it has understanding of your intent. It's a monitoring system. So yeah, let's do that. So create a Flink sample job for monitors temperature anomalies. And this is where usually things can get doozy, because there is a lot of things can happen here. So first of all, it needs to know what the hell is a Flink SQL. Thankfully, the most recent models, they are already kind of caught up with some modern technologies, and they also focusing, when they training models, they focusing more for developers using those models a lot, so they need to understand the modern technologies. But also in my system prompt, I also sprinkle a little bit of knowledge, so it can infer some of the bits, because I already put some important information here. Now, so what is happening here? It trying to temperature blah blah blah. I can see all 3 tables. Let me check the schema for the sensor so they can generate the correct statement. Now, let's need to check table info and see if there's a watermark support. So Flink has a certain concept, the way how it deals with temporal data, meaning that data, if we need to deal with some sort of in this case, we're interested in 10-second window intervals when we need to process those alerts, because we're going to expecting these alerts will fire within 10 seconds interval. Now, and in order to do this, there needs to be done some of the things that kind of leak abstraction. So this thing, this stream processing knowledge leaks into the world of brewery. So that's why it started talking about raw time, because we need to create the watermarks and all these kind of things. So it went through some sort of iteration. Let's see how bad it was, because I always can see how many statements it was trying to execute. So first of all, it created this alert and it failed. Let's take a look why it's failed, why it says. So it, first of all, try to generate something like this. Okay, brewery alerts, select from, okay, it gets the detecting temperature ranges for IPA, stout and pilsner. After that, it creates the tumble function for the 10 seconds interval. So something failed in this particular case. It throws the error that the syntax was illegal, because illegal use of null. So this little guy was able to recover from this, and after that successfully created statement. So now we do have some statement running, and if I'm in luck, if I go to alerts topic, I also see some alerts here that coming in. So yeah, So we do have a test sensor, but also now we start getting alerts from fermenter because the temperature is critically high. So it's generated some of the messages that simulated the increase of temperature. Alert job was successfully invoked, and now we have a separate topic where we have all these alerts collected, so we can just feed this topic to our monitoring system, PagerDuty, whatever we have to send the message to everyone who's responsible. And you can see here, it was smart enough to invoke all these tools, list the Flink tables, describe, create statements, list database, produce message. So it knows a lot of things what to do just based on the context. And now gives the rundown what just happened. Alert generated, beer, style, temperature monitoring, so it works. And now it says system successfully monitors fermentation temperature in the real time with alerts. Any fermenter drifts more than 2 degrees Celsius, beer style optimal range. I think it's pretty cool, no? Yes?
Yes, it is cool. I have a couple questions.
Yes, absolutely.
When you started, you said it worked with vector databases rather than relational databases, but what you just showed us was...
In this case, I'm not using, so there's a concept of RAG, retrieval augmented generation. It, give me a second, I'll try to see if I have a pretty cool diagram that I can explain the RAG for you. And yep, I have it. And it would do something like this. This is LLM. This is something that, this is your AI piece. Now, we want to bring the context from our system that has some data. It can be your Jira, it can be document server, you have emails, whatever. Now, in order to bring data from this into your, getting this accurate answer, we need to do a few things. So usually this information requires some sort of indexing. In the case of your Elasticsearch, you will create the full text index for the documents. In case of this RAG pattern, is that storage needs to be used that supports vector distance calculation, because this is how the algorithms work to find the similar or semantically similar text. So for example, you have a word king and queen. They semantically close. If you would be searching about royalties or royal families and stuff, it will try to find information about queen and queen, because those two things are different words. But semantically, when we're creating this embedding, creating representation of this data, so semantic search will find them on distance. So they will on the vector scale, they will close to each other. So that's why we need to have this database. Now, just a second, I see you. Yes. So and we take a question that we want to ask about this LLM. We apply this against this vector database. The example, king and queen. Who is the royal family, the most known royal family in 20th century?
There's an awful lot of the processing not done by the LLM, but done by the vector database.
And you're absolutely right. This is exactly what LLM will answer. Give it to you. You're absolutely right. Tough crowd. You're not playing around with those tools often. This is the most common answer that you get from LLM. So yeah, you're getting this, prepare the data, and after that you combine your question, your data that you retrieved from your system, and after that you ship it to LLM to get correct answer. And this part usually takes kind of like its own data pipeline, because you need to constantly ingesting new documents, doing the processing. The good thing is that some of those things, specifically if you're building your agents or chatbot or something like that with tools like Spring AI or LangChain4j, it's already handled on the framework side of things. So you don't need to implement this. You just need to pick up whatever connector available for PG vector, for example, or some vector database. So every database right now has a vector index or some sort of. So you just use a connector. You explain the system prompt, you write the question. After that, this RAG will bring data in, and after that, you'll get the question to LLM and get a very accurate answer.
If I need the LLM for reporting,
Yes.
and I don't need it for my daily processing, that's a big expense then on the database.
Correct. So that's why you have a different different approach with MCP. So if your database or any type of system where you want to get this data from can be exposed through MCP tools. So in this particular case, my Kafka servers, brokers, they are exposed through MCP servers. So in this case, I don't need to build this pipeline. I'm getting access to real-time data immediately through calling of these MCP tools. In this case, many people kind of opt out from RAG pattern because, again, it requires your whole data pipeline, and it requires like you including this the right context inside the request. They opt out for using MCP because it is slightly more easier to do with the tools.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not that familiar with how vector databases manage semantics, but what I kind of wonder is whether or not it would be perhaps more thorough and perhaps more comprehensive to actually have an LLM prepare your semantics in the first place. It would be far more expensive to infer in this case, but it might provide you a richer semantic analysis for something like perhaps not just individual words, but
you're absolutely right. You're also spending money not only for interacting with LLM, but also when you're creating embeddings. When you create, you cannot just go and take your whatever text you have in your system and turn it into a certain set of numbers. Creating embeddings is actually like a vector representation of the field of this, textual information. It's another big part. So it also requires to say, go in and calling OpenAI embeddings endpoint to create this data in order to load this into vector database. You know what I'm saying? Embeddings itself, it's also a process that LLM is involved usually, or LLM provider is involved.
A small question based off of that. Wouldn't this be rather brittle? Because if you want to adapt to something new, you would need to perhaps change the embeddings on the vector DB so that way you could get, so that way you could then export semantics into the context for something new.
Correct. So every time there would be new data,
it needs to be constantly updating your context, so you will have no contradicting or like no up to date data. Is it what you're asking?
Well, not just the context, but even the vector DB would presumably have to be reconfigured if you add like entirely new category of data or new functionality.
Why
at that point, this whole thing gets
vector DB
bulldozed,
needs to be reconfigured?
because presumably it wouldn't be able to do a semantic analysis and evaluate vector distance for new data if, for example, you have a new dimension to those vectors or something like that.
I think it's a built-in in the in the algorithm and the query itself. So it would be kind of like a very impractical, redoing this multiple times. The only thing that you probably will go ahead and just updating like new existing information, but you're not dimensions. Like if you're changing dimensions, it's just like we'll have two pairs of vectors, just another vector, but it will go up. Like you have a vector between these points and you have another here. It's not, you would have multiple the directions where this vector can go, and it should work. It's definitely will be depends on the implementation of the data vector store, but no, you don't need to reconfigure every time when you try to update new information or bring in new information.
I suppose so, yeah. In retrospect, the new vector is just orthogonal, and that problem takes care of itself. But it still seems like the setup is going to be rather brittle simply because of the vector store that's there. Maybe not even if you add a new dimension, but simply for other reasons involving other, reconfiguration of the vector store, or perhaps like even still, this seems like a rather brittle setup overall.
Yes, it requires you to maintain separate. That's exactly what this gentleman was also asking. Kind of, it sounds like very expensive just in order to bring some important context. But in some organizations, going from this route will ensure data privacy, because through this data pipeline, they will do cleansing, they will do like so they'll get the anonymous data. Yeah, get anonymous data or removing some of the personal identified information. So everything like this can be part of this process. Sometimes, in some cases, I don't know, Valo, you're using RAGs in your system? Yeah. So it's kind of something that will be part of the overall system, and a lot of things can be done before you can send information, because you ultimately sending information to, when you're creating embeddings, you're sending this outside of your organization, unless you have some local models that can provide you with the embeddings that will work. But again, in this case, you kind of like a build versus buy type of scenario, like you build infrastructure for running local models versus you're running infrastructure for buying infrastructure from LLM provider and stuff like that. So short answer is yes, but that's why MCP will not require this type of information, because with MCP you're getting kind of like a context increased of the context out of the box by calling the tools. It's a standard way.
In case you're free to get your context any way you like, because your resources could be anything. It could be implemented any way. The LLM calls on the resources, reads them, but fundamentally your resources could be implemented any way you want. It doesn't have to be a vector store anymore.
Correct. Yes. But in this case, you go in with the route of calling tools and calling resources and stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. Now let's do this one more time. Let's see. Let's simulate. So because since I already have a scenario to simulate this. Oh no, fermented one is cooling. Cooling just happened. Produce ratings showing temperatures climbing from 22, 25, 28, and 31. And we should see how these alerts would be fired. So in this case, it still waits for cooling system failure, emergency scenario. Okay, this is Brewmaster Nightmare. So we're simulating this, sending the messages, and we should see fermenter 1 temperature within 10 seconds. Alerts just fired and saying temperature anomaly. So alerting works. And I just built this data pipeline with just like copy pasting the runbook scenarios in, because just I don't want to type this. Otherwise, I would just type this. And also, as you can see here, it also runs in consuming messages, making sure that the data available in real time, critical temperature. So we generated 22, 25, 28, 31. So potentially yeast death. Let's check our emergency alerts. It should be triggered multiple critical alerts. Let me wait a bit longer for the most recent critical alerts. So while it's doing this, yeah, I should see it. The messages just came in. That's already here. Now, I can run the status for the rest of the fermenters. So what it will do, still waiting. Interesting. So it's still waiting for messages. Will it give up? I don't know. We're gonna see. Interesting. All right, it's stuck a little bit. All right. So critical brewery. Just give a second until it types us in. All right. Critical system failure, temperature spikes and analysis. So it gives some very nice report. Gives critical damage, blah blah blah. And just one more time, we get the status. This is something that usually, the operator will go in and type it in and say, like, what is happening there? What are we doing? So in this case, this system that you see on your screen, it includes like a little bit of chatbot context because we're interacting this with text-based, but also it has like agentic logic because it can go through this what they call it react pattern. It's reasoning and acting. So based on certain context, it will have internal loop and how it will go and check. Okay, so the question was about status of fermenters. What does it mean? Okay, for me it means that I know that there is a like list of topics that include this information, schema. So in this case, this agent will go through this internal loop and will come up with answer to my question. So in this particular case, it gives few ideas. Fermenter 2, cold issue, fermenter 3, warm issue, and there's the fermented 1 response protocol. So remember in the very beginning, I also tell it, okay, so you are brewmaster, you know what to do about beers. So that's why he come up with this kind of like a response protocol that would, someone who will performing some root cause analysis in this particular case in this system would appreciate. In real life, it can be something that some agent that will be responding for some sort of incidents or maybe preparing you. There's like some incident happened in your system, and the moment that you just wake up because you are on call, and before you jumping into the meeting with some other teams to resolve this issue, the agent will go ahead and provide you with the root cause, or at least like a first estimation of the root cause analysis, which is pretty cool because this information would be available on the agent side of things. Last but not least, sometimes we are modernizing our system, sometimes, many times. And in this case, the data can change, like what kind of data we're pushing into the system. Now, in this particular case, we're going to play with scenario where my system needs to know how to evolve the data based on some of the new information. In this case, we just install humidity sensors, our data, our brewery metric system should start also receiving messages with humidity percentage. And this is where the schema registry comes handy because schema registry supports, let me just put this here, schema registry supports multiple versions of the schema for the same topic. So in this particular case, as you can see here, my brewery sensors schema has only one version, version 1. If I refresh it, now I have a version 2. And what would be difference? And can I do select for compare and compare with selected? And as you can see here, the version 2 of the schema now includes humidity information that we ask it to do. So it created a schema. Now, when the messages will be produced, these messages will be visible for consumers who know about existence of this humidity information, which means that it's backward compatible, meaning that it will not break existing applications, even though we just created new field in this payload. But also, it will make the future applications have access to more rich data. And this is something that much more often happens in real life that you might expect. The schema evolution is a big part of conversation. I have like all separate presentation about this. If you're interested in this type of jazz, again, speakinggamov.io. And there is a presentation from this last year, Docs Days Thessaloniki, where I talk about schema registry and the schema evolution. Just a small spoiler for you, so you can go and learn about this then. Now, let's take a look what agent did. So what it did, it gives us a breakdown what it did So it says, okay, so in the version 2, now we have a humidity percentage. And important, backward compatible. All consumers continue working. Default value is 50%. Forward compatible. New consumers can read old and new data. In case of forward compatibility, all data that doesn't have this information will just simply have a null there. And we do have a new version for schema ID, which is kind of big deal. It did many things for us. God bless you. It created schemas, registrar schema, produce new messages for new schema, validates consumer and producer, how the data is not breaking existing functionality of the application. So I think it's also pretty big thing. And yes.
Does MCP handle Avro schemas that are versions that are not backward compatible?
So yes, in MCP server there is a tool. Let me show you one more time. If I run the tools, it has all sorts of things to do with the schema. Specifically, where is it? List schema, delete schema. Where is the create schema? There should be create schema or something like that. Consume message, create topics. So those tools are exposing the REST API that's available in schema registry. So all these things with the backward and forward compatibility and non-compatible things, it's handled on the server side, on the schema registry side of things. This tool is only wraps this in a nice package so LLM can express intent to call them. And based on the knowledge that LLM will gives, we're creating right parameters, right requests, and right responses, some additional metadata. That's something that LLM will be creating while calling those tools. Does make sense?
Which part doesn't?
Where's the version numbers stored? Is that part of the schema?
It's a part of a schema, and this information will be stored inside the schema registry. So this schemas list of schemas, that's something that is a part of schema registry. This is the in this particular case, brewery alert. It's a topic, and value. It will apply schema for value inside this topic. And if we're talking about the sensors value, now we have, let me refresh it. It has two versions of the same data. Value inside this topic might have a version 1 or version 2. How we can find this, how we would know this. Inside, if I go to sensor, usually it will include schema information inside metadata. So inside the message, it's what we call magic byte. Remember in the very beginning I said that inside the Kafka you're storing this byte information. So schema ID also will be included in this byte information. So that's why when you're reading this, it will get ID, go to schema registry, fetch the schema based on ID, and after that, based on understanding of the schema, it gives very nice structure that understands which field will include, like which value would be included in which field.
Plugin that canceled the build if the Avro schema was not backward compatible.
Yeah, I think there's still the plugins available for this type of compatibility. Another thing, what we did, it's kind of like a part of the library for schema registry. You actually can reject if your payload is not compatible with our schema. Another thing that we built for Confluent, we do this like server-side enforcement, so you will not be able to produce this this data into Kafka topic if we decide to put certain compatibility rules. So there's a little bit more than I just telling in terms of like we can it can even go and introspect some of the fields and stuff like that. So, but in general, we can, if it's not compatible, we can reject it. Usually it happens like automatically. If we, by default, I think if we're not expressing that we allow incompatible data. client side will reject this. Any questions so far? Now, and the cool thing about this, now I can, since all this knowledge is available, so I can do simply reset, and it will erase all these delete all brewery topics, sensors, delete all statements related to brewery pipeline, also delete all arrow schemas. So I'm expressing my intent. LLM understands, getting the context, all the tools, and now it just go ahead and start. First me check the delete of the Flink statements, because it looks like they not depend on anything else, because the topics will depend on schemas, and schema will depend schemas will depend on topics, and topics will be the Flink statement will depend on topics. So now it just go ahead and start cleaning things around. So this agent will do all the things from creating this pipeline from scratch, and everything would be up to my requirements. And now it's also can clean up. So next time, when I will be doing this demo, I don't need to go and worry about that. Some of the side effects from the previous run will destroy this. I just did this for myself. But imagine in the real world scenarios, you can also provide some sort of rules how to, if you have an environment when you want to run this, you have staging environment, just run these things, and it maybe is a part of LLM will be running as some sort of orchestrator of the test. It also can be possible. Oh no, range 2 of the bounds. Something broke. It's fine, because you already saw the majority of the things. So I consider demo successful. I'm gonna skip this because you already saw everything, but essentially it's how you can get this MCP server. Tools you already saw. I saw these tools, what they can do. And the cool thing about this, since it's a standard, I can also go ahead in my Claude desktop, say new chat. I can say connectors, in this case, disable this. It connects to my MCP Confluent and say, hey, do you see any brewery specific topics? So hopefully it will be able to, so it was able to get the list of topics, find it, get the tool. Same tool, it's deployed in the same server, so my agent use it for, some stuff that will be specifically, see, they clean up this. No brewery specific cluster. Looks like they were in a different environment or never made it in the past, or your local demo setup. So, and the same MCP server was invoked. Same list of topics by name, and things like that. Yes?
Just to clarify in regards to LLM discovery, I assume that means that returning a dictionary of resources and tools is part of MCP.
It's part of MCP protocol, yes.
So the only thing that would ever have to change if you're adding new stuff is obviously just that dictionary of tools and resources, and otherwise discovery happens automatically.
Correct.
Tool use happens automatically.
Correct. Yes.
So that's why you probably don't want to do this manually. You want to rely on the framework. So that's why a framework like Quarkus, based on the tool annotation, it will create automatically maintain list of those things for you. So you don't need to create this dictionary by yourself.
I was actually going to say, they're already in that case a resource and tool configuration language, kind of like a Terraform, but or just kind of like IAC, but in this case just for tooling and resources for MCP. Because I could definitely see a case where it makes sense to have a declarative configuration language for them.
I don't think it makes sense because MCP usually it is something that purposely built for particular scenario. So we as a vendor, we're providing MCP tool on top of our platform, so these people can bring LLM into, or like a Kafka data into LLM. Moreover, we're actually building is a part of the product, so you don't need to run external MCP server. your Kafka topics will be exposed as MCP tools. But if you need to create this kind of like a dynamic configuration, like why?
Your resources and tools are probably also infrastructure. So that's going to, at that point, connect to your infrastructure as code regardless. And now you probably want a configuration language that can tell the MCP server to somehow manage its state in relation to that infrastructure.
You may, but also
think about this, what I said. You also don't want to expose every possible feature, because in this case, you're bloating context with only name of the features. Majority of the tools that you will be using today in practice will expose 1 or 3 tools, tops. If you would say, take a Context 7, which is like a very popular MCP server to get access to open source documentation for open source projects, it was just only 2 tools. One tool is query, find the library, and another one, query library. But you have tons of different libraries. That's what's important, like what's actually implemented, not the number of tools and resources. You know what I mean? What you're saying is it makes certain sense, but in practice, it's impractical.
That these agents primarily don't sit next to infrastructure, because the way I see it, it's like if you have some kind of cloud deployment, that agent probably needs to interface with a bunch of stuff. That's the scenario I'm envisioning here, where effectively the resource and tooling ends up being chained to the state of your infrastructure in some cloud deployment, for example. And then obviously you're kind of in that situation where it's like,
maybe I'm not reading correctly what you're implying.
And if you're changing a cloud deployment, so you're changing your infrastructure, and so you have stuff constantly going up and down. That means the set of tooling that you have for this agent is also constantly becoming valid and invalid, because certain infrastructure is there, certain infrastructure isn't there. So
how is MCP responsibility? It's operations responsibility. It's like we already solved this with like load balancers
and like DNS names and stuff like that.
It's not MCP's responsibility. I'm just thinking about this from the context of configuring the actual resource and tool dictionaries for MCP to use. MCP just has to serve that to the LLM. That's fine.
Correct. Yes. Like I asked,
like, can you do this dynamically? Yes, you can. It's all about your MCP server implementation. Will it be practical? It depends. Depends on like what you're trying to build. In certain cases, the static number of tools is better than dynamic number of tools. Remember always, if you're growing number of tools, resources, and all this information that you're injecting in the context, you increase in context, and you have the chance that you will have a rotten context. You might have some out-of-date data start getting hallucination because all of a sudden it decides to call all these different tools, but it just get confused and stuff like that. You know what I mean? There's if you can do something, doesn't necessarily mean you have to do this. So if you can do dynamically register tons of resources and expose them, it doesn't mean you need to do this. Yeah, you don't have to raise your hand. It's fine.
So in that case, broadly speaking, just as good etiquette, it makes sense to keep the tool and resource dictionary small and static, simply because of the fact that you don't want to lose context.
You're precisely right. This is exactly what I recommend in majority of the cases.
Or
again, if you're trying to build something generic, something that can be used across different tools, you can use Cloud Desktop, Cloud Code, you can use Goose, you can use whatever agent you open code or whatever. They have their own ways how they can maintain this or manage these tools, or maybe like include this. But in general, if you're trying to be like a good citizen, and you know that you're not only one who will be the not only tool that people will be using, maybe there would be some other servers people will be using. In this case, you might get in a situation where you have a collision of the names of the methods and stuff like that. For example, someone will build, I don't know, like the MCP server for Pulsar, and some dummy like me would decide to include those tools, MCP for Kafka and MCP Pulsar, and they both have a list of topics type of method. In this case, LLM would will start hallucinating or picking up a particular method. Instead of giving you Kafka topic, it will give you Pulsar topic because the names of the topics are the same. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Again, if you can do something, that necessarily means that you have to do this. So just think about this, use your judgment, think about the context, think about what kind of, it depends on the model. Some models would be better, some models would be worse on understanding those things. Again, like I said, there's Opus 4.6 with the 1 million tokens context. You can do a lot of things with the 1 million tokens context, you know? All right, so yes, you saw how it built a real-time dashboard for my brewmaster. Maybe next time I just need to create the script that would allow us to do real-time flighting information. And it also understands like semantic of the Flink SQL and understands the temporal things. Remember the time when it was creating like a watermark on top of my topic, just to make sure that we will be able to register like every 10 seconds window things. And at the end of the day, MCP is not replacing or not running some of the pipelines. It actually fits very well as some sort of orchestrator. Some orchestrator that have access to different systems. In this particular case, it can create Kafka topics, submit jobs, query databases, and things like that. And LLM here would be used as a driver that will be exposing some of the tools. But those tools would be available for you, and it's still, still someone needs to maintain this database or running this Kafka or maintaining this Flink job statement. MCP is just another way how to consume this in a more non-deterministic way, if I may. So it doesn't replace your existing systems. It just creates more like open access to those things, I think. You just saw Brewmaster agent. We just did this. That was really cool. Let me skip this. You saw this is already because it's much cooler. Okay, now honest trade-offs. Even though I'm a representative of a vendor, I would just tell you, hey, how cool is that? You just need to use it. But I also have a responsibility for as an educator to give you, actual truth what is happening in the real world. Now, so what you just saw, based on some additional tools information, I just taught this this LLM system a little bit more about data streaming because it knows about schemas, knows about all this kind of stuff. Agents understand this Abro and protobuf automatically because MCP translates this for them. All this heavy lifting is already solved on either schema registry side of things or schema registry client side of things. So for MCP, it's just proxying these results. As you saw in my previous first demo when I showed you Synergy Bridge, the patent pending for name. Synergy Bridge, I use this as a system for ad hoc exploration, like how I can submit reports, how I can deploy GB, and all this kind of stuff. If you want to learn about system, it's a good idea to disable tools that will be creating some side effects. You can create those or like allow LLM to call certain tools and disable calling another tools. But just learning about things and try to create the scenarios, it's just great because LLMs, they reason about things a little bit more clear, like less and less hallucination. So it's really cool for pipeline creation. You saw this. I can explain what I want, and based on the reasoning that LLM has, just go ahead, using tools, create this pipeline for me. Yeah, so the kind of getting, if I can get access to multiple systems and provide this to LLM through this reasoning and action pattern that I mentioned, will go break down this statement. What is consumer like is growing. What is consumer? Okay, it's a Kafka. So what's the consumer like? It knows a little bit knowledge about Kafka and what's the consumer like, how to measure. It's like high watermark of the high offset in the topic and how it's different from the current offset. If it's this number is not going down, so meaning that it's growing. Let's explore why. Some agents might have access to some monitoring system also through MCP. It would be different MCP server, but it also can get monitoring information where it can get numbers from the latency of the network, and based on this, it will recover like a full story what is happening, not only because of your Kafka cluster, but also maybe networking, maybe Java garbage collector is kicking off, or maybe someone just like unplug the server and half of consumers just died and stuff like that. So so those things are possible, and it's not something kind of like I'm just exaggerating. It's actually kind of how you can build the incident management these days with agentic tools. Debugging schemas, getting access, this is all great, and you should do this. LLMs are much better in understanding text than human, even though you're using like a different grep of the logs. LLM can find this information faster. Now, for high performance and high throughput consumption, if you're trying to build like a real-time or near real-time system, it's maybe not a good idea because MCP is request response. There's JSON payload involved. Usually, it's a single source of kind of like the one server, even though there might be multiple instances running. Still, you will get a latency not in a matter of milliseconds, but rather seconds. Speaking about latency, latency is not guaranteed because, again, there's LLM involved. There would be communication with LLM. It usually adds additional latency, even though you can support some of the LLMs support now server-side caching. So if there's a very frequently used request, it can cache some of the responses, but we cannot rely on this. Now, yeah, I mean, like, do you really want some of the things? There's a growing community of the enthusiasts who is running this like autonomous agents with the OpenClaw, NanoClaw, and different type of like frameworks that allow you to do stuff. Just run with your stuff and do some of the things. The TBD. So I haven't experimented this fully, so I cannot give you like an expert opinion about this. But hey, production rights probably from LLM probably not some good idea if you want to do this kind of like fully autonomous. When we need to deal with very complex stateful stream processing that might involve dealing with the terabytes of storage. For example, like if the Netflix running a data pipeline on their recommendation engines, it might have like a terabytes of storage just to have all this information processed. Maybe it's not a good idea to bring the LLM for this. LLM cool for doing things, but you cannot just do this everything in an LLM. MCP is great for exploration, for enabling some of the sources to be accessed through the standard protocol. But streaming pipelines needs to be dealt with the tools that were designed to be used in the streaming pipeline. So that's why the one of the things that streaming community started working on, specifically on the Flink side of things. Apache Flink is the stream processing framework for. It can be used with Kafka. It not necessarily needs to be used with Kafka, but why not? So in order to add a features or how to interact with the data stream in the real time, but also have ability to interact with LLMs, prompts, and tools. New project was initiated last year. It's called Flink Agents that provides the APIs that your data pipeline still will be Flink, real-time data and such. But also there will be ways how you can invoke the LLM functions. So there's a lot of cool development happens here. How we can build this. It has support for MCP, so your MCP servers can be integrated with the data pipeline that's written in this Flink agent framework. We also support the Flink agents in Confluent Cloud. We do have integration with majority of the LLM systems, and you can build streaming agents in the Confluent Cloud platform. But this is the subject for probably another talk. This is going to be, I apologize for our YouTube listeners for my coughing if it was too loud. It's probably would be the second most important slide that gives you kind of like a roadmap if you're thinking about data pipelines and you in LLM and MCP and all this type of stuff, like where to use which. And sometimes you don't need to use LLM at all. Like the existing solutions for real-time data processing might not require, because you know you have a determinism, you have algorithms that work better than non-deterministic LLM response. So real-time event processing, Flink serves purpose. Flink plus Kafka, you can have access to a persistent streaming pipeline. So your Flink will be performing something, results will dump into Kafka. We talk about the exploration of the system, understanding data, seeing what is happening here. So ad hoc data exploration, pipeline creation, debugging, anomaly investigation, great. LLM can spot some of the things that you never thought you have. Also, for alerts, as I showed you, LLM was used to code me Flink statement, but alerting, real-time alerting, and running this in a 10-second interval, it was all Flink. It was nothing to do with LLM. LLM was smart enough to create a correct statement in order to create this. Whenever you need AI, you can use it. If you don't need this, don't force yourself. When MCP was not there, RAG was the thing of the people were building. MCP simplified some of those processes. Now accessing external data, external systems is much easier comparing to how it was before. With the introduction of MCP, connecting things now it's much easier. There is also like agent-to-agent protocol that allows the agent to communicate to each other. It exists. I'm not telling you that I'm a huge fan of this. I think because MCP already provides kind of standard way to expose certain tools, the agents will just like expose itself. If agent needs to invoke something, it exposes itself as MCP server, and you don't need to have another protocol on top of this. All right. Today is what? Tuesday. So maybe tomorrow on Thursday, what you can do, you can try to MCP Confluent Cloud, connect your Cloud desktop, ask some questions, play around with this, and build an agent, learn LangChain4j, start building agent, talk to external API, whatever it is. It can be used for using for free. If you're using Olama and local models, LangChain4j and Spring AI supports that. You can build application that will work against your local model. You don't have to, go and buy expensive plan for LLM like Anthropic or OpenAI. And yeah, you can find me everywhere on the internet. My blue sky on X here. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can ask any questions for me in DM on LinkedIn. Once again, that's the slides and the video. If you decide to rewatch this on the double speed or triple speed, you can find those there. There's a bunch of other stuff, different presentations. If you really want to learn data engineering, you want to learn things with data streaming engineering, go to developer.confluent.io. We have a ton of free materials to learn. There's courses about Flink, Kafka. If you're developing some applications, there's courses about Python and Kafka. You can find the course about the JavaScript and Kafka scheme registry, so a ton of useful materials. And also we have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. New videos every week. With this, my name is Viktor Gamov, and as always, have a nice day.
Ask YouTube if there are any questions out there. We had up to 10, 11 people online, just to, so. In the meantime, are there any questions from folks here?
So when there's silence in the room, there's two things.
Yeah.
Everything clear or nothing's clear. And it's, because there is silence, for me it's also very difficult to say which one is which, right? So, yeah, let me know if there are any other questions you want to discuss. I know a few things if you want to ask, my opinion about certain things.
Nobody's responding yet on YouTube, so I'm assuming any silence is golden, I guess.
Or like they would just fall asleep. Kind of. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, that was a good presentation. I'm bounced.
All right. So with that, let me finish off our slides there.
Yeah. I think I didn't even close
So
it.
this was awesome.
Whoa. Put the thing on
Okay,
your,
yes.
yeah, and
Oh,
then
so-
stand in front of the.
Or you can do this the YouTubers these days. They just not YouTubers, the TikTokers. Like they holding this like this.
Oh, yeah.
No, don't do that.
Actually, Louise last night, the recording we did,
Yeah?
Ask a Java Champion, we did that last night with Louise. I don't know where that is, but he had a very small microphone that fit on the neck part of the shirt there. It was kind of.
That was cute.
That was cute. So, so I have an older laptop, and I went to go download Claude, and of course it won't let me do it because my laptop's too old. And I did something for older versions, and I don't know, wanted me to install an extension in Chrome.
You can run this in browser. It
Yeah.
should work. So it will not be able to do some of the, if you want to integrate with the local servers and things like that. You will not be able to do this through the browser, but you can do a lot of things in the browser with the Claude desktop.
Okay. Yeah. And that laptop's 13 years old, so.
That still should be fine.
Yeah. No, it's
Depends on the version macOS,
right,
probably.
I can't go
Yeah.
past,
It's time for that laptop's bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
I like that, Barry. That's good. I forget the name of it, but it's 10.15.7.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like Snow Leopard and stuff.
It's not Snow Leopard. It's beyond that.
Okay. So in this case, it's already going into Mavericks or something like that.
Yeah, something like yeah. So, but in any event, yeah.
Past the animals, but still not the what's that?
Right.
Tahoe is the
not Tahoe. Oh, I can't send the tip of my tongue, but yeah. So that I need to work on in order to. And the funny thing is, I pay for a subscription for IntelliJ IDEA and WebStorm, and I can't go beyond a certain version because of that issue.
IntelliJ IDEA have Juni and Cloud Code integrated, so you can do a lot of like AI development or like a code, the coding agent stuff with IntelliJ.
So, but well, I found out at the booth, the IntelliJ booth, Java Champions do get a free license for.
Oh yeah.
So
That's a good thing.
they
So
have to
that's why
investigate
we're fighting each other,
That's
right?
right.
So that's why the champion will get the good stuff.
Yes, yeah. So no, thank you again. This was awesome. There's a lot. I think there's a lot to absorb for this, all this AI stuff, and when I reread your title this morning, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But that was based off what I learned last week. So I appreciate that. But yeah, let's wrap up.
What Mike
here.
is trying to say, you need to watch this a few times.
That's right. Yeah.
In order to fully enjoy and fully comprehend and appreciate the presentation.
So, but yeah, so let's just wrap up here. We got some upcoming events first. KubeCon London is next week, the same week as Java 1. And long story short, I would have, well, maybe I shouldn't say what I prefer, but I'll be going to KubeCon London to serve as a
excellent
as a dedicated reporter, but I really would have liked to have been a Java 1. But anyway, so if you're going to be in England, next week, so please consider going. And then Java 1 is next week.
They're not accepting developer advocates on the QCon.
That's true. And yes, I learned that more recently. But yeah.
That's why maybe I need to have like a different title in order to get accepted there.
Yeah, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, and if InfoQ watches this, and so be it. But you know, developer advocates are actually practitioners, so it's I don't know, but something I can fight with them about. But,
yep, exactly.
But anyway, yeah. So those are, and there's a I think this might be still good. I have to check with Shar on that for a $50 discount for that, and also Arc of AI. I did send an email to the list. I'll send it again since I probably have some new names. You know, so if you want to be in the running for a free ticket for the March raffle, which is probably the 15th, definitely make time to update the list tomorrow morning. EclipseCon OCX. The old EclipseCon is now OCX.
Oh wow.
That's in Brussels. And originally, EVAR had a 20% discount code. But I recently learned of a 30% discount code. So I don't know. So I put them both there. Of course, try the 30% discount code first. EVAR is in Java land this week. And yeah, so he's going to be presenting there. And coming up for us, I should have taken, I could have taken that off. But yeah, next month, I'm working with Don Rabb to get a title and abstract for tentatively April 14th. That's a normal second Tuesday of the month. And then for May, Doug Dreschel, who visited with us about maybe a year and a half ago, he's got some topics that he is thinking of delivering for us. So stay tuned for that. So that's good. We got the next 2 months almost wrapped up. So that'd be good. And I forgot to mention last night, Billy Carando from Oracle. He came up to us, and also New York. I don't think anybody from the Philly Jug was there, but he'd also, make the Northeast tour later this year. So details to come. And Emily Zhang from IBM, she was at DevNexus last week, and she's considering, just like Bruno's doing, after DevNexus, maybe sticking around the U.S. and make a tour too. So I think we would be on that list. That would be great. She delivered a talk back during the pandemic when we were all online, so it'd be great to have her back. And then I did not get a chance to see what our friends of GS Jug are doing. I know Kansas City has their meeting tonight. I've seen the meetup emails on that. So yeah, you can look for their meetup pages and see what they're doing too. So. With that, so you got the coins there.
Yeah.
I'd like to present a coin to was it Randolph? Was he Randolph, right? Rudolph. That was close. Yeah. All right. So I'll give you one of these 30th anniversary coins.
Yeah.
Anybody here for the first time? First timer? Your first timer? Is a Java 30th anniversary coin, and let's see. Let's give away a T-shirt. What's a good question to ask? Trivia question about the GS Jug, or
what 3 things that MCP server, according to specification, exposes, and you already have a coin.
That's okay. That's Yeah.
How many T-shirts you have, Mike?
We'll just give away one. We'll give
okay.
away
Yeah,
one.
okay. So how many?
I'm giving you one too. So
yeah. Okay. Perfect. How many? What's the 3 things that MCP server exposes so the LLM will able to discover it? He said that you can answer.
I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Resources, tools, and prompts.
Nice.
That sounds right.
That sounds
All
right.
Come see
exactly.
me at the end over there.
Yeah.
I'll keep bringing these shirts. We'll give them away. This was, if you weren't here on February 17th, we had a special 25th anniversary celebration. We actually filled the room. We had Shar Chander, Venkat Subramaniam, and Frank Greco here. We had cake. We had and a chocolate cake from Vlad and Irene. Yeah, I'll get that straight. So I guess that's Irene in English. Does that, okay. So in any event, yeah, thank you for coming out. If you were here for both nights, thank you very much. Thank you for your support. You know, this wouldn't be possible without all of you, you know, coming out here, making the trip after work, you know, whatever. And, you know, we work hard to try to give you, you know, the best for speakers and, you know, for events and, you know, things like that. So we do appreciate you. And, you know, if you have any desire to speak, you know, to deliver a topic, please just, you know, send us a note. And we're looking for, I guess, June and beyond. So, but yeah. So anyway, safe travels home, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you. Yeah, I cannot stress enough that I actually love the meetups more than conferences, because in conferences you have it's like a lot of like serendipitous type of situations, you know, when you can meet some good people, but sometimes you just like have a random people and they kind of like, okay, so what I'm doing here. But on the meetups, like if the person is here, they either interested in a subject or in the speaker, and they show up, and this is I much more appreciate this type of effort. So when the people, you know, come in